Hello, and welcome back to Deny the Lie podcast. I'm your host, Tony,
And I'm your second host, Simone.
and here we talk about spirituality, controversial topics, and anything else we want.
Let's go.
All
I'm
right,
actually excited for today's podcast topic.
I am too. You want to
Yeah.
start it off?
Hell yeah. Okay. So we're going to be talking about life purpose and soul purpose and the difference between that. But before I go into that, I think a good indicator of what, like a definition for all this is like what a soul is. It's the spiritual or intramural part of a human being, animal, anything regarded as immortal. When we touch on that, it's good to lead us into soul purpose and life purpose because everything is based off of your soul. So I'm gonna let Tony talk on it because he actually did a really good job of breaking the two down.
Oh my God, thank you. Okay,
You're welcome.
so so the difference between soul purpose and life purpose, uh, people actually get these kind of mixed up. I used to think that they were the same thing. So soul purpose is what you're put on this earth to do, as in learn and grow spiritually. It's a lot different from life purpose, which could be having more to do with the physical reality or having an occupation, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think he summed that
Mm.
up great because soul purpose again is something that your soul desires to learn, and then your life purpose is like here's a little extra of what you're supposed to do here on earth, like leave a trail behind or something like that. So I think you have a really good example from Aaron Doughty, his YouTube channel, of how he can find his life purpose, right?
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. So I like to use his videos because I think he sums it up in a really easy way to understand. And this video that I took this from was find your purpose by doing these three things and watch what happens. We'll link it in the description there. So the first thing to do is to set intention and to find out what it is that you're here to do. Just remember that you're all connected to your higher self, and that when we come here, we forget who we are, and that we're living a temporary human experience. You're here to
Yeah.
learn and expand your spirit to get to a higher consciousness level. So follow a passion to try to find that part out. And then if you don't currently have one, you may actually do, but you don't realize it yet.
Right.
And then you start being more open to the opportunities coming your way. And you probably, for people that don't think they have a passion, you probably do. You just do it so much that it doesn't feel like it is. Because
Yeah.
I was the exact same way. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
I don't know what to do with my life. I don't know what to do. It's like, and I just decided to ask a few people around me, some of my closest friends and family, and they were like, oh, dude, no, you like doing spirituality, you like to meditate, you like to work out sometimes, you just try doing stuff like that. And I was
Yeah.
like,
And
okay.
I mean, you obviously can have more than one purpose in life, right?
Oh,
I
absolutely.
would say, yeah. So I would think like hobbies are part of a purpose. You can add on to that. Like you said, spirituality. We're making a podcast. That's a pretty good upgrade, I like to think.
Right. And I think this helps us out a lot with how much we actually understand spirituality and how we can explain it to someone else who is doing it.
Yeah. And like we even have to do like a ton of research just to even come on this podcast and like say information. We have to make sure it's right. So not only are we benefiting people, but we're also benefiting ourselves because we're learning more.
Right.
Okay. So it's hard to fathom or put together again because I know you already explained the two, but a soul purpose and a life purpose. But I think they also work together to create you to have lessons and to find a passion.
Right.
Is that okay? So does Aaron Dowdy like break that down pretty well? Do you have more information on that?
Yeah, so I have a few more points to go over.
Okay.
And his second point was numerology. It's kind of what we were talking about in our previous episode. And it doesn't have power over us. The name carries a certain meaning, and names can add up to a certain number, which is what is dominant in your life. And also, again, numerology, very subjective to each person. It's not one end all be all number means this.
But
And
how does that help us find our life purpose or soul purpose? Do you think it like gives us a heads up like, hey, this is the direction, keep it up. So like you and I, when we started this podcast, all we saw was 111. Does that
right.
kind of influence like to keep on going in your passion?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
So a good sign is seeing the numerology because obviously the numbers have different meanings. So
Right.
if you're starting seeing a lot of numerology in your life, like us when we first started this, it's a really good sign that you're probably getting closer to what you're looking to find.
Okay.
I guess is a better way of putting that.
Mm-hmm.
And then another thing that you can do, this is going to be really scary. Step into the unknown and try new
Mm-hmm.
shit.
Yep.
So try to get rid of the emotional or picture perfect image that you have of yourself. And a good example of this is my own experience trying new
Oh
things.
God.
So, so when I was in high school, my senior year, I was looking for a new job to go to, and I didn't want to just get a job and do it just to have a job. I was like, okay, maybe I could actually find something that I could major in college, and it'll be really easy and good, and
Yep.
I'll love it because I had a bunch of all the time in the world pretty much. So figured I'd try something out.
Yeah. No, and the thing
So
is like, sorry, Tony, go ahead.
oh no, okay. So step into the unknown, try new stuff, and try to get rid of the emotional or picture perfect image that you have of yourself. So a good example of this actually comes from myself. So in senior year of high school, I tried being a CNA, which is a caregiver. It's basically like babysitting old people. That's the best way I can describe it. And the only difference between a baby and an old person is 100 years. I don't think there's any more of a difference
Oh
because
God.
they're literally babies, except
Yeah.
they're 100 years old. That's the only difference.
Yeah.
So the funny thing is that I was thinking about going to college for that,
Oh God.
and I tried it for 3 months at a facility near my house, and oh boy, those people do not get enough credit for their work.
I know, right?
Oh my, that was a really tough job, but at least I didn't go to college for it and then get out and realize, oh, rut-row raggy, I don't like this. And then I would have wasted a bunch of time and money, and then
Yeah.
I'd have to go
Yeah.
back to school and would have just been a heck show, man.
Yeah. Okay, but just a quick question. Do you know what you still want to do in life? Or
No,
exactly.
but the point is that I decided, oh hey, I kind of like this. This sounds interesting. I'm gonna try it out. And then within 3 months, I was like, oh hell no.
Exactly. Like there's so much pressure in our generation, especially for being like 20. It's like go figure it out. Like they tell you to pick a major when you're 18, when you barely have any life experience, but we're working at a pizza shop for 2 years. Oh, you should know what to do with your life. No, it doesn't work like that. I mean, I work at a fast food restaurant for fun because it just helps pay the bills while I'm in college, but
Yeah,
I still don't even know what I want to do. And I'm getting like a pretty basic major and I'm like, I don't even know if I want to do it, but it's sad because it's either they give you no time to decide anything. So it's important to
right,
try stuff out. So
exactly.
just yeah.
And if you're picking a major and it's very easy, or I guess not, maybe not easy, but there's a way for you to kind of get a little bit of experience while you're in school, like with that major, like you're doing a nursing program or something, and
Yeah.
maybe you can do an internship or however that works.
Oh yeah.
Definitely do it
Do the
because
internships. Yeah.
it's a lot different from studying one thing and doing another.
Yeah.
That's
No, you gotta
exactly
make
how
sure you
college
like
feels.
it. No, internships are great. Do that as much as you can because, what if you go all 4 years in college and then go to the job that you thought you wanted to major in and absolutely hate it? And you just wasted
Right.
what, $100,000 in college tuition and now you're in debt. So
Yeah, now you're
it's
here.
yeah. No.
That's exactly how that works. And
Yeah.
it's kind of like what you were talking about with picking a major for only being 18. It's like I remember our high school counselors were like ruthless about that. You
I
remember that?
know. Yeah, and they're like, "I still don't know what I wanna do with my life, and you're out here telling me what to do." It's like, "Come on."
I was like, "Honey, I don't think being a high school counselor was the dream, you know?
No, no.
I don't think this is your dream job here."
I mean, unless love being a teacher and all for that. They don't get paid enough, but still.
Right.
Anyways,
All right.
okay, back on track.
Yeah. Okay, so you want to talk about the book you've been reading or
Yeah, so, this is a book that I've been kind of studying for a little bit, and all of my references are gonna be based off of this book. Your Soul's Gift by Dr. Robert Schwartz. He is a hypnotist therapist that does soul regression for people to find out why they went into this life and lessons that they needed to learn. And this connects to your soul's purpose because your soul is learning lessons that you go through in life. So a little different from life purpose, what Tony was talking about. This is more on things like people experience trauma, why they experience trauma, why they go through certain things. And
Mhm.
he really does a great job at breaking it down. So if you want, I highly recommend reading this book if you're someone who has experienced a lot of trauma. It doesn't have to be good or bad. But he breaks down information onto why things happen.
Yeah,
You
that sounds awesome.
Yeah, great book. Do you want me to go into a little bit about that, or we want to kind of talk
Yeah.
about something
No,
else?
go for it.
Okay.
No, go ahead.
So one that I have been reading a lot, all of his chapters go into why you experience poverty, why you have a disability, suicide, abortion, all of that information. And what he does is he actually interviews people that he's had in his therapy sessions, and they are brave enough to share their experiences and what they go through. So to break down more on the spiritual side, so what he does is when you go through the hypnotist stage, you fall back into a soul regression. You have your spirit guides, you have your soul council. And basically, what this does is that you have a blueprint in life. So let me retract. Before you go into life, you decide what you want to experience. So, in other words, you have a board meeting with all of these higher entities, conscious beings, and they plan your life with you. So, that doesn't really necessarily mean that you don't have free will because you do.
Yeah.
So when people do stupid shit in life that they're not supposed to do, that's part of their free will. Maybe it's supposed to be part of their blueprint in life, but not really.
Right. And that kind of ties into people becoming drug addicts and
Yep. Yep.
alcoholics or
I was gonna say I agree. And things
okay.
like that aren't technically sinful like the Bible says it is, because anything is godly. If you have a possibility to do something, that's godly. They don't see it as a
Mhm.
sin, they see it as a lesson. So if you do something stupid, right, and you
Mhm.
later on pass away in life and you look back on it, it's like, you know what, I don't really appreciate how I acted on that. You will have karma for your next life to kind of redeem yourself in that aspect. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, I think I kind of understand what you're talking about. So
Okay.
I'm just gonna try to say what you just said. So you're trying to redeem yourself?
Okay. Let's say you come into life, your soul's purpose is to understand love, sympathy, and open up more heartedly for people. I go through my life and I'm not that, right? I'm
Okay.
a bad person. I'm mean to people, and I pass away and I see that. It's like, you know what? My soul and my committee is like, you didn't do a good job with that. Let's retry it. That's what reincarnation is.
Oh.
That's You're
Okay,
redeeming that.
so it's kind of like, oh, you didn't get the message the first time, so now you have to go
Yes.
back?
Yes, exactly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I'm gonna provide an example from his book. So he interviewed this guy who was born in Nigeria, Africa, and his family's of farmers, and they're super, super poor, right? Not a lot of wealth. And this can relate to anybody who is struggling with money. This is just an example of poverty and like a lesson you can learn from that. And so what he's saying is like his soul, or he decided to be more loving, more kind, more sharing. And that's like, and all that is a purpose or a life, or excuse me, soul purpose from being poor.
Mhm.
So sometimes your life will choose to become poor because you learn this. It's always an outcome at the end of the time, at the end of your life.
Okay.
Like struggling with money, you experience that to learn something for your life or your soul purpose. And you choose your parents, and that gives you trauma or that gives you a lesson. You just learn things from that. So everything has a reason to it. And if you guys are more curious on more of the touchy subjects like suicide and abortion, please email us and we'll be happy to go over another episode like that. Um, I can go over one later in the episode once we talk about life purpose and how that can relate to your soul purpose and how it ties in. So I'm gonna let Tony go into more examples of a life purpose, and then we can kind of wrap it up on that aspect.
Yeah, so I feel like a life purpose is more of what you're put here to do in a physical aspect. So it's kind of what we've been saying. So I come to this earth, always trying to figure out what's my life purpose, what's my life purpose, what's my life purpose, instead of
Yep.
what's your soul purpose.
Right.
So the two are very different.
Yes.
But I again, life purpose is more of kind of like a mission statement,
Mm,
is what I feel like it is. So I am going to go to impoverished countries and I'm going to help build homes for them. It's just an
nice.
example. So,
Right.
maybe that's a life purpose. And a soul purpose is to come here to help raise people's consciousness and find deeper meaning within yourself. That's what I feel
Right.
like a soul purpose is. So, moving on, we're going to talk about Earth and how it's a spiritual school. Okay, so your life is like a continuous class of period, and you are a spiritual being having temporary human experience, as we've previously stated. So when we learn certain lessons that we come here to do, we can evolve into the next level of consciousness. And this kind of ties into karma as well. It's what you put out is what you get. And Earth life, a really great way to describe this is that it's kind of like a game.
Yep.
And I remember hearing that in the video, and something just kind of clicked in my head because you play video games all the time. So it's not like this isn't any different. You're just the
Yep.
main character in a first person perspective.
Mhm.
So you come here to figure out your manifestation, higher powers, consciousness, and understanding of the laws of the universe. It is kind of like a video game.
Yeah.
You're coming here to learn things and have character development and, do some missions, and then you beat the game in a way. So, when we act in connection to others and everything around us, we evolve into a near spiritual level. And this can also help to guide Earth into a new era of life and energy. When we connect to other people around us, we're understanding that there's no separation between me and another person. I think that's probably the best understanding of the law of one
Okay.
is
Yep.
that is that knowing that you're all the same person, you're all the same mind.
Yep.
And again, I think a good way to put this is that whenever you're screaming at someone, I think a good way to stop being mad immediately is to imagine a mirror in front of yourself. Because then it just looks like you're screaming at yourself. And I don't get why
Yeah.
you'd be
No.
yelling at yourself.
And that also connects to our previous episode because we talked about manifestation, right? So if you're getting angry and yelling at that person and you're basically yelling at yourself because it's going to come back to you because it's a form of manifestation.
Right. So if you're screaming at someone, you're just going to get more of that. You're just going to get more
Yep.
anger. Stuff's just going to keep on going wrong.
Like exactly.
But do remember that you are here for a reason. And the more that you tap into yourself and your purpose, you are elevating yourself into the school of life. And there are many souls that come to Earth during a specific time just to transform.
Mhm.
So when I say transform, I mean move up to a new level of consciousness that you couldn't before. So when you come to Earth, you come here to learn specific lessons to help you move up in the spiritual level. And
Nice.
the
Yep.
whole reason why you come here is to remember who you are. So basically when you're born, it's kind of a shock because
Right.
you're like, "Wait, what?"
Yeah.
It's kind of like you were in a dream and you were having a really good dream and then you wake up and you're like, "Aw." Except you don't
Right.
know that you were dreaming.
Yep.
So you just wake up and it's a shock value. And that's why I think when I hear about people describe death as this really big and atrocious monster, I can't see it that way. I feel like it's
Mhm.
kind of the opposite of what birth
Yeah.
is. Birth is more of a shock factor whereas death, you're like, "Oh yeah, I'm this.
Yeah.
I'm a spiritual being that had a temporary human experience and now
Yep.
I upgraded to a new level of consciousness." Depending on if you wanted to accomplish what you wanted to.
Yeah. I'm gonna quickly interrupt because you actually pointed out a great thing that just reminded me. So when you pass away, yeah, it's not going to be like a super devastating thing that you talked about. But on the supernatural side of it, when people pass away, they sometimes get stuck, right?
Yeah, I think those are the lost souls, right?
That's what I think. I think so. This can kind of go off of suicide too. When people pass away, who are super angry, upset, lost, all of that, and then they get stuck here because they're so into them. They're so into that mindset when they pass away, they block off passages for help. So when we pass away, we want to be open to what is out there, right? Because you're just like, well,
Right.
here goes nothing. And obviously that doesn't happen when you commit suicide. This is
Yeah,
just
no,
an
that's
example that I'm saying.
an example.
Um, right. So when that happens, sometimes they get stuck because they don't accept help. So that's why souls get stuck down here. And people who have the power of like being a medium, they go to these people because obviously they could talk to them and they go, well, why am I stuck down here? It's because you weren't open to the help that on the other side. So
Right.
that's why that was just a little side note because I think personally I get confused why we have ghosts here and things like that. As someone who just has experienced a haunting before, I'm like, well, we're supposed to go to the other side, right? That's what we want to
Yeah.
ascend, but then we get stuck down here because I think mostly it's due to not wanting help and just being stuck in that mindset when you pass away.
Right. That was a really good point that you brought in. So that was a good explanation, and that kind of actually kind of leads into our next little set of topics here. After this,
Sweet.
we'll pretty much wrap it up because
Yeah.
we've kind of I kind of have just said these things, but I'm just going to go into a little bit more detail about them. So the three things that you agreed to before coming here. Yes, you did agree to these things.
Yep. And you chose your parents. You chose your parents. So don't give them any
That's
shit.
right. That's right. Well, yeah,
Depends
there
on,
might
I mean,
some
yeah.
alcoholic fathers out there or
It,
mothers,
right.
but
It,
just it's hard to say that you did choose them, but
yeah,
that's up to
no.
you
And
to believe.
right. And it's mostly due to learning something from them. Like just for an
For
example,
sure.
if you have a really negative mom and dad and they say you can't do this, you can't do that, you're bad, you're terrible, and that lowers your confidence. Well, maybe your sole purposes was to regain confidence, regain self-love, all of that. It's all because there's a reason to everything. Let's just set
Right.
that straight. Right.
That,
Okay.
that yeah, that's a really great point. There are
Yeah.
always reasons why things happen. There are no
Sadly,
coincidences
even
either.
yep, yep. All right. Go
Okay.
ahead, continue. Sorry.
Okay, so no, you're good. Okay, so you came to this life to forget who you are. So in order for us to have an experience that we can learn from, we have to delete the game data. I think
Mhm.
that's a really good way of understanding
Nice.
that.
Yeah. I like that.
So we have to forget who we are, or else you would know that it's a game, and therefore you wouldn't really have any purpose. So if you
Yep.
just came into this life and you're like, "Oh yeah, I got it."
Yeah.
It's like,
No.
"Well, dude, you're here for a few more decades, so you
Right.
might that's why that doesn't work that way."
Yeah.
And also that meaning is something that we give to things in our life. So anything that you experience is fundamentally neutral unless you give it particular meaning.
Yep.
And this is a very good topic because negative I feel that negative energy is basically separation and difference,
Mm.
whereas positive is aligning you with who you really are.
That's awesome.
So
That's really good.
yeah, that I thought it was a good way to understand that.
Yeah.
So by having a positive outlook, you're allowing it to be in your life.
Mhm.
And I also have noticed that when you do have a more positive outlook on things, they just tend to work themselves out in ways that you never thought.
Absolutely.
Whereas with the negative stuff, it's just all little nitty gritty stuff that adds up and it gets it
Even
just
worse.
it gets
Yeah.
even worse and just makes life unbearable.
Yeah.
So when you give something a positive meaning, you get more positive outcomes, and then vice versa with negative. It's
Yeah.
basically just a matter of perspective. So if you're trying to be a more optimistic person, you're negative all the time, try simply saying out loud, as soon as you wake up, I'm going to be optimistic today.
Yep.
It's really corny, but I notice that when I wake up and I just say in my head or out loud, I feel great today, I notice that my whole day is a little bit more different.
Yep.
I feel like I'm just attracting more of that great energy into myself and throughout my day, and I feel like I'm giving it out a little bit more, if that
Yeah,
makes
you said that
sense.
tone right. No, that's
Yeah.
perfect.
Okay. And then the goal of life. I feel that it's to become awake to what you're actually doing here, to break
Yes. Yep.
yourself out of the matrix, and you start to be able to manifest things.
Mm-hmm.
And lastly, by doing continuous meditation and inner growth, you're already becoming more aware of who you really are. And
Yep.
if you really do feel lost about what you're supposed to do in life, where you're supposed to go, meditate on it, ask for signs. It always turns out better than anything you could ever imagine.
Right.
It always is 10 times better.
100% facts on that.
I've been struggling a lot with my purpose about what I'm doing here. I think I got the soul purpose part nailed, but
Right.
I'm still not sure about the life purpose. And being in college, getting a general associate in business, you're not really like, I
Yeah.
don't know what I want to do still. I'm getting this
You
degree as
don't,
pretty much a
yeah.
backup plan.
You don't feel enlightened with that. It's just like, this is a tool. So if all else fails, I have this.
Right. That's the whole point.
Yeah. Just to kind of wrap up everything, it's important to understand that things happen in a life for a reason. So if you're ever super negative and you're just super upset with life, just take a step back. One, again, be positive. And two, try to find a meaning to what happened. Just be like, okay, well, maybe that happened to me because I need to understand this. Or
Right.
understand your emotions and be like, just understand that it's okay and things happen for a reason. And if you have a positive mindset with it, it will come positively to you.
Right. I definitely agree with that
Yeah.
because I mean, you just got to try stuff. That's as simple as it comes down to. You just got to try
Yeah.
new things. I know it's scary. You're probably having a hard time getting out there or even finding what
Yep.
to do, but
Yep. It's
meditate
okay.
on it. You will figure it out, I promise.
Yes.
I've
Yes.
talked to so many people and I ask them, would you think that you were doing this when you were my age, like when you were about 20, 21? And you're like, no, hell no.
Right. No,
So I believe that everyone's supposed to end up where they're supposed to be. So,
exactly. And even if you're like 60 and you're still struggling with what you want to do in life, you still have time. Time is endless. You have unlimited time. Even on
right,
Earth, like sure you have like what 80 years for your life expectancy here in America, but that doesn't end there. You still have a soul. Your soul never dies. So this again, like you said, it's just school. Earth is
right.
school for learning lessons. That's all it is.
Yeah, that's all Earth is. It's a school for learning lessons and for growing.
Exactly. So that's why it's important to manifest positivity because if you go about life super angry, it's going to come right back to you.
Exactly. It's also
Yeah.
about just having personal responsibility for your own
Yeah.
life. I think a lot of people are lacking the responsibility aspect of that's like you're where you are for a reason
Yeah.
and you also have the ability to change that if you want to.
Yeah. You have free will. Even though you come here with a blueprint, you have a blueprint of things you're supposed to experience, not things that you're supposed to do, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
Well, do you got anything else?
I think I'm good. What about you?
No, I'm good too. If you guys have any other questions and if you want us to touch more on the touchy subjects for the next episode, please let us know because we still have a lot of information on that. It's just a lot to say in one episode, but really appreciate you listening to this third episode. And yeah,
Right. And if you did enjoy, please feel free to share it, tell a friend, and we'll see you guys next time.